Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I'm proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. So, when looking for evidence of how to prove things, okay, we look for evidence and documents and all of the things. And so, people would say, like, if I say Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother, people would look for the things that they're most familiar with of identifying that statement, right? And they'd say, oh, well, do you got a birth certificate? Okay, so they're going to ask for something basic like that. Or they'd say, oh, do you got a DNA evidence? You know, it's like, look at, I'm not some person here who's saying I lived in a secret world with Michael Jackson. Like these people, I was Michael Jackson's bodyguard. I got the secret knowledge and shit, right? Or I was Michael Jackson's house cleaner. I really know him and shit, right? I'm not some loser saying that shit. I'm just a person in the real world who's saying I've done a real investigation. And through doing the process of a real investigation, I have real evidence and I know what real facts are. And because of that, I can come out and proclaim that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's mother, and I can freaking prove it to you with real evidence. I don't need your stupid DNA shit or whatever you think. I don't need to be an insider and say, oh, I was an insider and I was privy to secret information. And then because of that, I got some DNA and I did a secret test and I figured it all out. Okay, that's not who I am. I'm not some insider, some moron trying to say I'm an insider. I know because I was there. No, this is me, just some total loser in the frickin' real world, just saying I see things that are going on too. You know, I'm just a loser here in the real world. That doesn't mean I don't see things. And I have a mind, and I can think about things, and I can analyze things on which ways I want to do too, okay? So I'm going to use my fucking natural abilities I have as a loser here in the real world, and you're going to see that my natural loser abilities are way better than all your freaking scientific nonsense bullshit. I don't need that fucking shit. It's useless for you to even think that I need that fucking shit to prove my fucking case is dumb. It's like, okay, now let me deal with reality. So, the reality of the world we live in is that Michael Jackson was a part of the Jackson family, right? That's the reality of the world that we live in, right? That Diana Ross is just a woman that he met when they came to Motown, that she claimed to be a discoverer of the band, and they used that for Motown to help promote the band. And then Michael and her had friendships and whatever they had and stuff, right? Which even people think that their friendship evolved to a point where it got sexual, okay? And it's like, this right here proves it's not sexual too. That discredits all of that stuff. This one right here, this right here, what Diana Ross says right here cannot exist in a world that your people's story, the story that all you people believe, that what I just talked about, okay, this right here instantly discredits all of that because this can't exist in that world. If your world is true, this can't exist.
It could be part of my family.
Yes.
We have a lot of the same bone structure and a lot of skin color.
Well, Michael does now because he's had it all done. You take that as a compliment?
Cannot. I refuse you to insult Michael. He's a friend of mine. I love him, and I don't like people making fun of him.
No, but we are...
Ok, Clive, c'est le moment de la fermer.
I get real serious when I talk about Michael, and I think we should really kind of look at his life with compassion. He makes incredibly good, I want to say the bad word, good music. Yes.
And she says, I think we should look at Michael's life with compassion. Like, that's just one, like, little simple thing there. It's like, okay, why should we look at his life so much with compassion? But that's left up to interpretation and stuff, okay? But this is not left to interpretation. There is no interpreting this. This is direct.
Could be part of my family.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Diana Ross talking about Michael Jackson, who's part of the Jackson family. Michael Jackson has a mother, Catherine, has a father, Joseph, has a big family with a bunch of siblings, right? Diana Ross, she's been married by this time a few times. She's got a bunch of kids. All of her kids, I think, are probably born by this time right here. I think she's already had all of her kids. So all of her marriages have occurred. All of her kids have been born. But when she speaks about Michael Jackson, he could be part of my family. And now you could just like, okay, well, that could be blown off too. But she goes on a way, it's way deeper than that.
Yes.
We have a lot of the same bone structure and a lot of skin color.
Michael does now.
Okay, we have a lot of the same bone structure and the skin color's the same. Okay, bone structure. Michael could be part of my family because we have the same bone structure and the skin color is the same. She's linking up like what you would say what your DNA evidence does. I don't need your DNA evidence because Diana Ross just told you that Michael Jackson and her have the same bone structure. He could be part of her family because they've got the same bone structure. That's DNA evidence. It's better than DNA because this is living biological proof. It's a living biological, living DNA evidence. But you people can't recognize it because this has to be explained to you. That this right here can't exist in your Jackson's world and Michael Jackson's story about what you all believe. Diana Ross would never get up on a frickin' stage like this, but you gotta understand this is being recorded and documented. So what is she actually doing? She's leaving behind breadcrumbs for somebody like me to come back and find and document the truth of their story because she wants more than anything, she wants the world to know that Michael Jackson's actually her child. Michael Jackson's her child, that's why...
Because he's had it all done. You take that as a compliment?
Cannot. I refuse you to insult Michael. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
I love him, and I don't like people making fun of him.
No, but we are...
Ok, Clive, c'est le moment de la fermer.
I get real serious when
Did you see how I get real serious? Did you see? I get real serious when you talk about Michael. I don't like people talking bad about him. He's a friend of mine and I love him. I get real serious. Real serious. We're talking about Michael Jackson, child of Joseph and Catherine. Okay? And look at how she's talking. I get real serious. Look at how she talk. I refused you to talk bad. But did she go to Michael Jackson's memorial at the Staples Center? Absolutely not. What stopped this woman right here from talking all this stuff, how she talks about Michael Jackson, yelling at you do not talk about Michael Jackson because why too?
Talk about Michael, and I think we should really kind of look at his life with compassion.
We should look at his life with compassion. That's much more of a statement that would come from a mother who gave her child away to the Jackson family. Not Diana Ross, who was introduced to this young, super gifted, talented Michael Jackson, who then flourished under her guidance and became the biggest star of the world. Why would she be saying we got to look at that kid's life with compassion when that kid's had all the advantages of stardom and everything? But no, how is she saying we got to look at him with compassion? Why? Because he could be part of my family. If you look at him, we've got the same bone structure. Our skin color is the same. This can't exist in your people's world. And that's why I keep saying it's like people, they want evidence. It's like, dude, I got the hardest core evidence they need. What more evidence do I need than this right here? Freaking Diana Ross just straight spilling the beans. What did she say? Michael Jackson can be part of my family because we've got the same bone structure. Biological evidence. Biological similarities. I don't need some lab to give me some DNA bullshit when I can use my God-given gifts and my brain and my eyes and my ears and I can see and hear clearly what just happened right there. This cannot exist in your world. But you know how this does exist? If she, and because I had the thought that she was Michael's mother, so I had to figure out, well, how did this all happen? How it happened is that Smokey Robinson met Berry Gordy in August of 1957. That's 1 year before Michael Jackson's born. 1 year. So just think about the reality of the timeline. This shit happened. I'm not making this up. This stuff actually happened in the real life if you look at the timeline around Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson's in Gary, Indiana, so nobody thought that the birth and the timeline of Michael Jackson would have anything to do with the building of Motown. Nobody ever linked that up together. Why would anybody? Nobody, but I freaking did it. There was finally, one person actually finally saw it. I did the investigation, so I can tell you, not only did I have the thought and I saw it, I've done the investigation. So I'll tell you how it happened now. Smokey Robinson met Berry Gordy in August of 1957. That's when they met. And when they met, that's when Motown started, because Berry Gordy's in Brunswick Record Studio. When that happens, it's because Smokey Robinson was coming to audition for Brunswick Record Studio, where Berry Gordy was working as a writer for Jackie Wilson. So there is no Motown. Berry Gordy does not even have his own record company. Berry Gordy is in the industry, but he has not started Motown. But Smokey Robinson comes in for an audition at Brunswick. If Brunswick would have signed Smokey Robinson, there's never a Motown. There never, ever would ever be any such thing as Motown. It would not fucking exist. This is a reality when you don't understand how crucial and integral Michael Jackson is to the whole creation of Motown. So if Brunswick signed Smokey Robinson, then the whole relationship with Berry Gordy and Smokey developing Motown together, that don't happen. It's history lost. So, but what happens is Brunswick turns Smokey down. Berry Gordy, seeing that he needs a young artist just like that to build his own company. He's a guy that's writing songs. He's got a band. He's got everything he needs. So Berry Gordy went after Smokey Robinson and introduced him. Smokey Robinson then, he knew who Berry Gordy was when he's told him his name. Smokey Robinson's favorite artist at that time was Jackie Wilson, and Smokey Robinson knew that the guy that was writing the words was Berry Gordy. So he knew the name Berry Gordy, but he had never met him. So then when Berry Gordy said, "I'm Berry Gordy," Smokey Robinson's like, "You're Berry Gordy? I know who you are. You're Berry Gordy. I know who Berry Gordy is." So he instantly had an immense respect for him. Okay? Then this is how the relationship developed. In August of 1957, they met, and that's how Motown starts. It's that actual moment, 1 year before Michael's born. So what happens, though, when Smokey Robinson goes back to his house, one of the people that's hanging around his house, who actually is sleeping in his house, because Smokey Robinson has a cousin named Sharon who Diana Ross is best friends with. And because of that relationship, Diana Ross actually stays the night in Smokey Robinson's house during this time. So at the actual time when I'm saying when this occurred and when Michael Jackson is conceived, Diana Ross in real history, she's literally staying the night in Smokey Robinson's house. These are how I got to find out that Smokey was the dad, because then I know that the way the relationship happened with Motown and everything is because you can understand that Berry Gordy ends up being the one with the motive. So what you'll find is that after Berry Gordy meets Smokey Robinson, it's just like 2 to 3 months after that Michael Jackson's conceived. Okay, so after Diana Ross, she's literally only 13 years, she's not even 14 at that time, because she doesn't turn 14 until March 26th of the next year, 58. Okay, so she's still just in her late 13, She's not even 14. So Diana Ross at that time has just seen that Smokey Robinson is hooking up with Berry Gordy, and she's in her little thing. She does what she does, and she had sex with Smokey Robinson, and she gets pregnant. That kid that she got pregnant with, that's Michael Jackson. That's the kid later to be known as Michael Jackson. That's the environment in which the world Michael Jackson was conceived, and this is the environment in which the world Michael Jackson then is born into. So when she's talking about we need to look at Michael Jackson's life with compassion, yeah, when you're the 14-year-old mother who abandoned your child, and then your child had to be lived and raised in another family, then the child had to bear the burden of being a star and living in the limelight under the name of that other family. Now can you understand the context of her reality of saying we need to look at Michael Jackson's life as with compassion? Because she knows the real story of who Michael Jackson is, not the story of what we've all been sold. The story of what we've been sold does not fit up with what she's saying here, not whatsoever. And she can't say this stuff. She has no right to go around saying Michael could be part of my family. We got the same bone structure. It's so disrespectful. And remember, that's the Jackson families who were signed to Motown under, which she's tied into Motown, everything with that. So She's not just going to disrespect. There's no reason for her to, not only is there not a reason for her to disrespect the Jacksons, she actually has a reason not to. She has reasons to not disrespect them. So for this context of this conversation, and then that's the other thing too, it's like, if she ever had sex with Michael Jackson, she wouldn't be talking to him. He could be part of my family. We got the same bone structure. She's not saying it, she's not thinking about the kid. It shows that she was never thinking about that kid in a sexual way. She's always looking at him in an artistic way. She's feeling compassion for him. We got to look at him with compassion. And if you really look at him, what you're going to see is that he could be part of my family because we got the same bone structure and we got the same skin color. That's clearly what's going on here. This is hardcore evidence because what she's saying here can't exist in the Michael Jackson world of what we were sold of what it is. It can't exist there. She can't talk this way. It can't happen that way. But because what happened, we finished that other part too. So then what happens when she finds out that she's pregnant, which I know that she changes high schools in her known history. It says on her 14th birthday, she changes. That's when she enrolls to the Cass Tech school, okay? So right there in that moment in her life, she's showing the signs. She knows she's pregnant. And now what would happen in her life at that time? Maybe there would be an alteration of a school that she would attend. And that's exactly what happened. That's when she enrolls into the Cass Tech school. So there's definitely, which that's a school that if her parents are saying, you're now a girl who's going to have a child, you're going to need more of you're going to be more trained to have a career to support your child. That's why they enroll her in the Cass Tech school, because now she's pregnant. She's going to have a kid. They haven't figured out the plan. See, that's what I'm saying. They enrolled her on March 26th. That's when she enrolls into Cass Tech. They haven't come up with the plan yet to send that baby to the Jacksons. So what happens then, as Smokey Robinson, as she informs Smokey, hey, Smokey, I'm pregnant. Smokey has to go inform Berry Gordy, hey, Berry, there's this girl in the neighborhood, Diana, and she's only 14 years old, and I had sex with her, and she's pregnant, okay? She's going to have the kid. So now, Berry Gordy's trying to build a record company around Smokey Robinson, okay? He's just like 18. Berry Gordy cannot build his record company with his first artist being an 18-year-old guy who just got a 14-year-old girl pregnant in the neighborhood. Okay? That's not acceptable. Period. That's not acceptable. So Berry Gordy now is having to come up with ideas of how to resolve this on his own. Okay? Because they're thinking they're going to have a kid. That's what they're thinking. They're going to have a kid and they're going to raise a kid. That's what they're thinking. But Berry Gordy's thinking, no, this is my guy. This is the guy, Smokey. This is the guy I'm going to build my company around. So Berry Gordy, he thinks in his head, how do I do this? And what comes up into his head is, oh, I've got a friend named Joe Jackson. Berry Gordy and Joe Jackson are the same age. And at the same time in history, they were fighting in the Golden Gloves, trying to be professional boxers. They were both fighting in the Golden Gloves at the same time. They're the same age. Berry Gordy and Joseph Jackson are the same age. So, and then you look in their history, do they have similarities? Yeah. At the same time, they were both fighting in the Golden Gloves, trying to be professional boxers. After that, they both pursued careers in the music business. And because of that, they actually did have some success, and they had friends that were in the music scene, and because of that, they intertwined in between each other, and there's a lot of stuff there. I don't want to get into all of it, but there's a much bigger history through the city of Chicago, because Chicago's right above Gary, Indiana, and Chicago's the big music scene. Like when you want to think about Detroit Motown, okay, what it is, okay, before there's a Motown, Chicago, like there's a Chess Records in Chicago, the whole scene in Chicago, that's where the Regal Theater's at, that street there in that area, that's the whole real black culture music scene, the blues, the Chicago blues, it's known like Chicago blues scene. I mean, that's Chicago. It was the big scene. So Berry Gordy and Joseph Jackson, after they were boxers, then they ran into each other again through their interest in music, and they had developed a friendship. But then Joseph Jackson went away from the music and had a family with all the kids. So what I'm saying is Berry Gordy knew that Joseph Jackson had stepped away from the music and started having the kids. And then that's when Berry Gordy, when he's looking for a place to go put Michael, he says, I got my friend Joseph Jackson. He knows him from being a boxer. He knows him from being a musician. And then, so this is a guy he can trust. And he knows Joseph Jackson's raising a family with a bunch of kids. So for them to bring another kid into the house, how hard could it be for them to raise another kid? And let's give him a little bit of money. That sure seems like a good situation that you can see where Berry Gordy would be seeing that Joe Jackson, that's my guy. That's good. And then he's out of state. The kid's over there. The kid's away from everything. Now Berry Gordy can do everything what he wants with Smokey Robinson. And then so that's what they did. So Diana Ross, when she's talking about Michael, we got to look at his life with compassion. You got to understand that she was coerced by Berry Gordy to give her child away to this Jackson family, because Diana Ross, she didn't just ruin Smokey Robinson. What she understood is that she was guilty to give her kid away. Now, this Berry Gordy, and now Diana Ross knows Berry Gordy too. Smokey's saying Berry Gordy's the real deal. He's in the music business, and Diana wants to go in the music business too. And they're saying, we're going to start a record company. We got to get rid of the kid or else we can't be stars. So Diana Ross is now feeling guilty that she ruined Smokey's career. Just as he was starting to get famous, she kind of ruined the whole thing. Now that's the kind of way you can get her, you can make her feel guilty to say, we got to give this kid away. And now she's only 14. You can see her parents saying, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and give the kid away because you're only 14. You got your whole life ahead of you, right? So then Smokey, you can see the whole environment where it's like, you got to give the kid away because he's feeling guilty of that he just screwed Berry Gordy. So you can see why they're all like saying, once Berry Gordy said, let's give the kid away, I've got the plan, they're all feeling guilty and they're feeling obligated to Berry Gordy, and she feels guilty and obligated to Smokey. Smokey feels guilty and obligated to Berry. So you can see that within the context of that relationship or what happened in that environment, that when Berry offered to them, we got to give this kid to the Jackson family and let him be raised over there. They did it. It happened. This really happened. They gave their child to the Jackson family. That kid is Michael Jackson. That's who Michael Jackson is. So then they then develop Motown. They do all the stuff they do. Motown becomes big, and then they become big stars. But they don't instantly, she doesn't go back and get Michael. And actually, in the real thing, by the time that reality could start going back to look for Michael, Joseph's already got Michael in the Jackson 5 band, and he's doing his own thing with that kid. So even in reality, if she wanted to go get him, Joseph had his claws as soon as Michael showed the talent, which that's 1963 is when the Jackson 5 forms. 1963 is also the year Smokey Robinson's made vice president of Motown Records, and that's like the year when Diana Ross becomes the lead singer of the Supremes and they start doing their whole big thing, So right at that time when Smokey and Diana actually start to get really established in Motown and as the big giant stars, but it only took 5 years for Joseph to get Michael to see that he was a talent, and then he took that and put it with his family. And once Joseph took Michael and put him with his family, now you got to think about the reality. And remember, Diana's just becoming a star. They're still just building Motown. They're developing this image stuff. So Berry Gordy definitely would be at that time not wanting Diana to go get the kid, And then what happens in reality is from 1965 to 1970, Diana Ross and Berry Gordy end up being in a serious relationship. So then they end up in a relationship. So you can see how Berry's got control over her and Smokey, and he's telling him, leave the kid alone. He's doing fine over there with the Jacksons. But so then that Michael's so talented that Michael comes back to her on his own before she goes and looks for him. That's what's so incredible about the story, and so ironic about everything about this Michael Jackson story. Because he does have the talent, and because he's the gifted kid and everything, And because they gave him to the person who ended up flourishing that talent, Joseph Jackson, and did everything he did, so he brings Michael back. It's the greatest story. Once people realize that this is the real story of what happens with Michael, it's awesome. That's what I'm saying too. The Michael Jackson story is completely new. It's all new and it's ready for everybody to relive and experience. It's going to be a beautiful thing. It's going to be really cool. And so now Michael comes back, but Michael doesn't know that any of this has happened. Michael thinks he's a Jackson. He doesn't know any of the stuff. He's trying to do his best for Joe. He's doing his best with his family, working hard, right? See, that's the thing too, is like when Michael always talks about his childhood, it's like, no, his childhood was fun. It was spent with his brothers who he loved, doing what he loved, making music and doing all that stuff. He loved that stuff. As a kid, when you get older, you'll forget about the beatings and stuff. You forget about that because when you do get older, you realize, oh, I was a stupid kid. I did need to be controlled and punished once in a while. So you'll move past that. But Michael doesn't move past that because when he grew up that he realized he was not a Jackson. So when they signed to a Motown, then they move to Los Angeles and they move in with Diana Ross. They actually move in with Diana Ross. They're living in her house. So that's obviously, that's the time when Diana Ross informed Michael Jackson. You can see from the real history and everything, all the documents prove everything. You can see that that's when Diana Ross actually informed Michael that she was his mother, the real situation. Now you can see when that kid he has to live in that environment. So every bit of the world that we know of as the star celebrity Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5, every bit of the life he lived in that world, he was living as the orphan child. And he was informed that he was actually the child of Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson, but he was living as a Jackson for the public and the whole image and all of that stuff. His whole life that he experienced, and we witnessed it. And it's this big lie of what he did. And that's why I'm saying, when she's saying you got to look at his life with compassion, okay, now can you understand what she's talking about? Now can you understand that you got to start looking at that guy's life with compassion. Look at what these people did to him. And he had to live this lie in front of the public, in front of everybody. Like I'm saying, it's one of those things that's unique. And I can understand a lot of people's pains and things and stuff like that. But this one is very unique. And it's like, this is like one of those things that's like, who's really experienced this kind of freaking life? This one, now people have experienced the life of having to be where their parent ended up not being their parent. They had to live with that stuff, right? That's common. But did you have to do it while you're freaking living in the limelight in front of the cameras and being sold as a family act to the point that your family gets sold as a movie that's known as The Jacksons: An American Dream? I mean, that's brutal that you're the kid, you're the orphan kid in this family, and then they're selling a product to the public, and that product that's being sold, that you're the main thing that's selling that product that's being sold is all sold around this Jackson's: An American Dream. And here you are, Michael, being the main star of selling that product, and you're not a real part of that family. And you can't really be with your real family, the Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson, because they've got their own families. And with the Berry Gordy, nobody can tell this secret. So he had to literally hold that fucking shit in. He couldn't tell his friends. Nobody knew this. None of them. He could tell all the stuff he could tell, but he never told anybody that he was not a Jackson. Nobody knows this story. That's why Diana Ross comes straight out on television telling you this weird shit. Michael can be part of my family, which tells you too that she wasn't having sex with the kid. She's not looking at the kid in a sexual way. She was always looking at the kid as a member of her family, like a family member. This is not a kid that she was having sex with. This is her child. And she's clearly stating it right here in this interview. You can see every single word of how she speaks, and every interpretation that I give of her words is exactly right. And you people can say all the stupid stuff you want. I tell you what she's saying. I back it up with the real facts and the real dates. And I've got every piece of evidence to back up everything I'm saying. Why the hell are you going to trust some stupid a test tube lab and a piece of paper. You're going to trust that paper is able to talk to you in a way and convince you in a way that's more convincing than than the way I'm talking to you. If that's true, you're a fucking slave and your soul is fucking dead already. Good life to you.